right, so we're back. Another episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks. Episode 39. We're getting pretty close to 50. That's exciting. So this episode we'll talk about some NFL news. A pretty big trade happened a couple days ago. Obviously do our Super Bowl predictions, who we think is going to win that game. And then give out our Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks awards for Players of the Year, rookies, coaches, all that. So without further ado, I think it's time to bring back the what are we drinking portion of this, because we've been pretty reluctant about that. Are you drinking anything in particular?
No, I just have water. You didn't give me a heads up.
You gotta stay hydrated. That's fine.
You haven't asked me what I'm drinking in like months, and now you suddenly just dropped this on me?
Because I have a beer. I have a nice thick stout, the Brooklyn Brewery, the black chocolate stout.
Oh, go ahead. It's like you're their sponsor. You going out of your way to see that I'm not drinking anything, to show off your beer. I've got the whole bottle in the glass. Look at you. Really proud of this one.
Hey, you said you were at the gym earlier, so you got to, put good things in your system, not poison. So.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Good. No.
But anyways, so yeah, the big news was obviously Matthew Stafford, the former Lions quarterback, was traded to the Los Angeles Rams in a pretty ridiculous trade. I didn't think they would get that kind of haul. I had Stafford in my top 10 last year, I think at 10 or 9 in our QB ranks. But to get, they got Jared Goff. The Lions got Jared Goff. Was it 2 first-round picks and like another pick? I think
it was a third or a fourth.
Yeah.
Listen, it was a lot. When I first heard it, I thought, wow, that is a lot to give up, especially considering they don't have their first round pick this year because of the Ramsey trade, and they didn't have their first round pick last year because of the Ramsey trade. But then I looked into it more and broke it down. Obviously, they were not interested in bringing back Jared Goff. They made those comments very clear at the end of the season, where I think the GM and coach both said that as of right now, he's our quarterback. They wouldn't comment on him being the quarterback's future. Seems like an odd thing to say when the guy's signed to an extension. So whether you like it or not, he's your quarterback of the future. But really, I looked down the trade as they gave up a first and the third or fourth, whatever it was, to get Matthew Stafford, which I don't think is that egregious. And then they gave up a first-round pick to get Jared Goff's contract off the team because the extension didn't even kick in yet. So they were screwed. They were never going to get out of that. And they were locked in with him, and they clearly made it seem that they didn't want to be locked into him. So, go for it. The Jalen Ramsey move last year I saw as a go and, all in kind of move to compete for the Super Bowl. Your window's now. Why cut it short now? So they went and got their guy. Theoretically, you would assume Stafford and the fact that Donald and Ramsey are on the team and under contract for at least the next 2 years would assure that the first round picks you're giving up aren't that great. They'd have to be. You would have to assume they're going to be in the bottom half of like the 20s at the minimum, at the best. So, look at it that way. It's not the end of the world. This team also doesn't seem to value first-round picks very much. Jared Goff was the last first-round pick they took.
Which was 2016.
Yeah, and they still find talent. They still find some good players out there. They still have some young guys. Van Jefferson, the wide receiver, I thought looked pretty good. Cam Akers obviously had a pretty good season.
I like Cam Akers, yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't think it's hindered them that bad that they haven't had the first-round picks. Well, and obviously, you say the first-round picks will come in handy with the cap because, you get guys on rookie deals that are cheaper, but they also got the biggest contract probably off their books in Jared Goff. So, and Stafford's not going to kill them, especially it's only 2 years. I think it's 43 or 41 million he's owed in the next 2 years. Very acceptable for a quarterback of his caliber. And, hey, he's been a solid quarterback. McVay's still smart offensive mind. I think it's going to be a good marriage for them. It is, they did play Petty Penny, but they had to get out of the contract, which is, I think, why they paid so heavily. So I like it for them. Really, I like it for both sides. The Lions get a quarterback to be a bridge. I don't know if I'm the Lions, if I love having this, Goff on the team for as long as the extension is. But
I know I still think there's still a possibility that the Lions could still draft a quarterback. Like, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Like Goff could be a pretty good bridge quarterback and just play his contract out. I don't remember how many years he has left on it, but honestly, that's kind of how I looked at it too. Because at first you see like 2 first-round picks and a third for Matthew Stafford, who's deservingly a very good quarterback. But you're like, that's a lot. And then they gave up their starter for him too. but it kind of reminded me of the Al Horford trade. How like he was literally you were just getting rid of a player to kind of free up money.
Oh well, yeah.
In that aspect, but in turn they also got an upgraded quarterback, which I think with the Cardinals kind of like the whole Kyler Cliff Kingsbury thing not working out 100% like everyone hoped. And Seahawks are always going to be in it, but they seem to be pretty comfortable at like a wild card team the past few years. I think this puts the Rams in a pretty good position. I still think Russell is the best quarterback in the division there, but they have pretty solid receivers in Woods and I always forget Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
And they have a really good run game. I like Cam Akers a lot. I think he'll continue to get better.
He's impressive in the playoffs for sure.
Pair that, and now you have a quarterback who can play at a high level, and you have a top 5 defense. They're looking pretty good. So,
McVay is a very smart offensive mind, and if he saw that Stafford, there must have been something about Stafford that he really liked because he knew this price was going to be steep, and he clearly was upset with Goff. Like the whole team was. They made the
fact that he couldn't even
clear.
say he was his starter next year was like kind of baffling, but.
Yeah, because you signed him to a contract, Sean. I don't know what your plan is. What is he going to be, the backup to John Wolford here? But obviously the whole situation seemed a little odd when Wolford started that playoff game and then got hurt, and then Goff ended up coming in. So you think if he's healthy enough to come in and injury, to cover up an injury, you'd think he would be healthy enough to start a playoff game. So
yeah,
it just seemed like that relationship soured, and they immediately cut cord. They didn't want the rumors to build or make it uncomfortable, so they just moved on and cut on. Tough for Jared Goff. The Lions are not a team I would want to be traded to. Look at Matthew Stafford. Look at he's not been a bad quarterback, but he's got no success to show for it, and nothing has worked out for them in Detroit. Especially, and then Luke going away from some of it. I thought Goff he's a game manager pretty much at this point of his career. Like he showed that he's really not that exceptional, great elite quarterback that maybe some people thought he was for that brief moment when the Rams were dominating when they drafted him and McVay first got hired. So it's going to be tough to be a game manager and find success without Sean McVay's offense and the weapons around him, and in a situation like Detroit. But listen, Detroit's going to burn it down. They're going to rebuild like they do every other 3 years. And so, it's a bridge quarterback. They can afford to eat the money because they're going to be young players. They don't really have any big contracts on their books. So you probably keep Goff, see if he puts it together. If not, he's your bridge quarterback till you find someone else.
Yeah, and that's a hell of a transition to go from, the palm trees of LA to I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been to Detroit, but
don't get it wrong. Jared Goff is the biggest loser in this trade.
For sure.
But what you said about the division, I think the Niners are going to come right back next year. I think they'll be healthy. That defense will be fine. Yeah. We'll see what they do at quarterback. But the division's tough. Like the division, just getting out of that division's tough. We saw it this year. They needed to get take another step. The division keeps getting better. They're not the best teams are in the NFC West from that conference. So
yeah, I was going to say NFC West and the AFC North are probably hands down the best divisions in football.
Yeah.
So.
The pressure's always on them. It's not just getting, it's going to be tough to get in the playoffs when you're playing 6 games against very tough teams.
Yeah, which is funny because the NFC West quite a few years ago was in the same seat as the NFC East, where all the teams are playing poorly and barely getting to 500. So it shows how much a team can turn around in a short time. So. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up that news. Definitely a big trade. And apparently the only team that Stafford was opposed to going to was the Patriots because Matt Patricia went back to coach there. So
I
haven't heard a single good thing about Matt Patricia. So
yeah,
it doesn't seem like the players really like him.
I think that that definitely played effect into it, but I also think that he knows the Patriot way and how it's no off days and all that, and there's no offensive weapons anywhere on that team. So look at LA. It's much better location. Him and McVay were already in Cabo having dinner together after the trade. They seem like they'll gel together pretty well. Both Georgia boys, so they just seem like they'll fit pretty well, personality wise.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to obviously the big game, Super Bowl 55 this Sunday. Has a weird feeling. I feel like it's not maybe I'm not watching enough TV, but I feel like it's not being really hyped up as much as Super Bowls usually are. Maybe it's because of COVID.
Well, COVID, yeah, for sure.
But
I don't even think that the Chiefs aren't even in Tampa. I think they're just treating this like a normal road game. They're just going to hang out. Yeah, I mean, everything's virtual. There's no appearances or anything.
Oh, yeah. It's still weird seeing like a Tom Brady in a Super Bowl patch jersey, but it said Buccaneers instead. It's like, still not used to that, I feel like. I don't know. Still feels odd.
It is a lot, really different. What do you think about who are you leaning towards? Who we think Almighty Dakota thinks is going to win?
I mean, so beginning of this, like before the season started, we had both picked Saints over Chiefs in our Super Bowls, and then when we redid it at the start of the playoffs, I said Chiefs were going to win and repeat. So I'm going to stick with that. I think, like I said last episode, I think Tampa's they pose a better threat than the Packers would on defense, but I don't see. Like I said, they have a hell of a duo at linebacker with David and White, but I don't see that defense being able to stop both Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. And then Mecole Hardman's quick as hell too.
Well, Sammy Watkins will be playing. He's back. He said he's expecting to be in the Super Bowl.
You still got to worry about, Damian Williams, and, you never know when Le'Veon Bell is going to break out and have a good game. So I just think everything is kind of leaning in favor of the Chiefs. And the last I saw, the Bucs had a pretty, I think it was a couple of days ago, they had a pretty lengthy injury report. Like Mike Evans, like Godwin, I think Gronk, like some of their big players were like limited or didn't practice. So
I would expect everyone to be fully ready to go. I still,
here I am, before you finish, here I am again betting against Tom Brady. So we'll see how far that gets me. 3 weeks in a row I bet against him.
Well, Tom Brady didn't make me look good. I think I've gotten every one of my NFC predictions wrong from the divisional round up until now. So, yeah,
his fault.
0 for 3 on the divisional round and the championship games, but here we are. I've always thought, our power rankings didn't change much throughout the year with the Chiefs at number 1. The Chiefs have always looked like the best team in the NFL, and
for sure.
it really never was close. I said that, the Super Bowl is a good matchup with the best team all year versus the hottest team, which I think is what you ideally want to see in the Super Bowl. The hottest team, though, does have Tom Brady. That does change things. That defense is impressive. The whole JPP and Shaq Barrett, I think, are going to be big game changers. If they can get to Mahomes, I know the offensive line issues with the Chiefs but are noticeable and big. But Mahomes,
they just lost Eric Fisher, right?
Yeah. I mean, Mike Remmers is the starting left tackle now. Like, he's been in the league. He's been a starter. He's started, I think he was starting with the Panthers, with the Vikings, I want to say. Like, he's played before. He's not like some guy that's never seen the field. I also think that Mahomes is pretty mobile. He doesn't run, but he doesn't need to. And the one thing that I saw from him, and I didn't think he could improve, but the one thing I saw from him this year that was improvement is he would scramble and gets out of the pocket, no intentions of really running, but just scrambles just to kind of move the defense with him, kind of draw a guy off coverage, and then boom, hits him. He has the mobility and the footwork to get out of the pocket and move around. But like, it's just, he's so smart and never takes his eyes off the field. It just uses it as another element to buy time for his wide receivers to get open, and they don't really need much time anyway.
Yeah.
I don't like going against Tom Brady, but I still think the Chiefs have been the best team all year. They beat the Browns without Mahomes. That Bills game was not really close. They were much better than the Bills. And I thought the Bills were incredible all year. So I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. I ultimately think the pressure is going to be a big difference with offensive line issues, but Andy's a smart coach. Bieniemy's smart. They have very quick options at wide receiver. Look at the big plays that they've been running with Tyreek Hill. They're short slants. If you want to press them, you can't. Hardman's probably much the same way. They're the 2 of the fastest guys in the NFL. Like, they can get open so fast that he really doesn't need that much time. So I think it's going to be. I think the Chiefs win. And 2 other areas that I'm going to keep my eye on is see how the secondaries compete. That there's going to be points scored. Mahomes and Brady are going to have to air it out against each other.
For sure.
It'll be interesting to see how the secondaries hold up. The Buccaneers have a couple young guys in their secondary, have a couple guys that gotten torched in that Packers game.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs have been pretty solid. Matthew's been a stud, so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be a good game. I'm excited. It's probably the best matchup I think we could have possibly seen, and I'm excited about it. I'm going to take Mahomes.
Yeah, I would say one thing to keep in mind for anyone who's nothing against Tom Brady and the Bucs. They're obviously a good team. But for people, kind of looking against the Chiefs, keep in mind that they were losing to the 49ers last year in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter with less than 6 minutes left, I think. They were down by 10. Yeah. And Mahomes and that Chiefs offense, guided by Andy Reid, came back, won that Super Bowl against I'm not going to say, much better defense, but that 49ers defense was probably one of the best defenses in the league that year.
Of
and,
course.
Like I said, the Bucs have a good defense. Chiefs defense is heavily slept on. I think they're much improved from last year. So you take a better defense on the Chiefs side and still all, if not the same, and also better offense. The Chiefs just are the clear team here. And I get the whole Brady thing, he's just different in the playoffs. But he's got some mojo going, so it wouldn't shock me. But I just, like you said, it's just everything points to the Chiefs just being on paper, on the field, just the better team. So they should win, but it'll be close. I can see a 5-point difference.
I could see if everything kind of lines up for the Bucs, Brady's first year in the NFC, them playing at home for the Super Bowl, all these things kind of line up perfectly and they can win it. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it, but maybe if it wasn't COVID and the Chiefs had to be in Tampa those 2 weeks doing the media obligations, getting ready and doing all the stuff that you normally do during the Super Bowl, and Tampa got to stay in their own home every night. Got to have the fan build up, the whole city buzzing for those 2 weeks, the stadium completely rocking with Tampa Bay fans, then maybe I might change my mind, because that's something that if I look at the two teams, I still think the Chiefs are the better team, but stuff like that makes me feel like a hot team like the Bucs could catch, beat a team that's better than them. But since it's not the same year, since they're not going to have the advantages they normally would if they were playing the Super Bowl by themselves or at their home stadium, I still think that the better team's going to win. And I've thought the Chiefs have been the best team in the league by far every single week this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a good game. I think, obviously the Rams Patriots wasn't a great game, and that was 10-3 2 years ago. And people were like, oh, it was a great defensive game. I was like, no, it really wasn't. It was just the offenses couldn't do any. There's a difference between a great defensive battle, but when the offenses just aren't executing, it's not fun to watch. There's a difference when the defense is actually playing well versus the offense is just failing. They don't always correlate together. And then last year, I think the game started off a little slow and then obviously had the excitement at the end. But I think this is going to be a really good.
Plus, obviously Tom Brady's been to, 10 Super Bowls, so he's just a seasoned veteran and knows what he's doing. That Buccaneers team is not, though. There's not a lot of other Super Bowl, players on that team. No one else has been to the Super Bowl besides, I think, Gronk, that I can think off GPP's been there. But those are the three that I can think off the top of my head that have been there. This Chiefs team, they're pretty much the same team as last year. Mm-hmm. They've all been there already. Even look at the playoff run. It was different. Last year, they were losing every single game of the playoffs. We had the game where they were down by a lot against the Texans. This year was different. Mahomes went down, and we said this after that game. Mahomes went down against the Browns, and everyone else stepped up. His receivers, Kelsey, and the defense in particular played extremely well. This is a championship team. They looked significantly better than the Bills. This team is just loaded. They look all business. They went 15-1, and they looked like they coasted the whole regular season. They look like they're locked in this year. That they know what they're doing. They've been here before, where the Bucs haven't. Tom Brady has, but the Bucs haven't. So we'll see. It'll be interesting, but I'm still going with the Chiefs.
All right. So to wrap that up, then give me a score prediction. Give me a score and an MVP of the game.
Well, I'm not going to get too far off. If I said the Chiefs are win, I can guarantee Mahomes is getting that MVP trophy.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's going to be some scoring to be had. I'm a little suspect about the Buccaneers secondary.
Yeah, both their safeties are playing through injuries, so.
Yeah, so we'll see. But it's Mahomes and Brady. And the other thing is, this is a matchup of some skill players. You got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Leonard Fournette has been balling, Gronk is Gronk. Like, even if you factor in Le'Veon Bell's still on the Chiefs, Sammy Watkins is coming back. Like, you want to talk about skill players, I don't think I could have come up with a better matchup between two teams. But I do think there's going to be some points to be scored. I'm going to say 31-24 Chiefs.
Okay. So I'm gonna go Chiefs as well. I'm gonna go Chiefs, say like 36, 31. Like, keep that 5. I don't know if that even will add up correctly.
36, yeah, I was going to say 36 does not sound like a normal football score, but you go ahead with that.
Let's say 35-30. 35-30.
Let's say 36, I think you need 3 touchdowns and about like 5 extra points.
Well, then 35 we would get.
Or not extra points, field goals, I mean.
So let's do 30. All right. 38-32. Does that make sense?
Sure.
38-32. Yeah, that doesn't make sense either.
I don't think that. Well, you know what? You stick with whatever works for you. You clearly weren't very good with 7 multiples in school, were you?
I mean, I didn't think I was gonna. This was very impromptu.
You were the one that asked the question.
I did. I did.
Setting yourself up for success there. I love it.
So let's say 20. So they score 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals for Pete, or 3 touchdowns. So let's say 27-35. Yeah. 35-27 Chiefs. That was painful. That took a lot.
I know.
But here, I'm going to hit you with a bold prediction. I think
that you're going to figure out what 7 times 6 is. Is that your bold prediction? Because at this point, I don't think you even know that.
Tyrann Mathieu is going to get a pick 6 or a fumble recovery for a touchdown.
Okay.
And I could see him, if he gets like 2 turnovers or something and like 5, 6, 7 tackles, as getting the MVP of the Super Bowl. So watch out for him. But,
okay.
Like you said, Mahomes is the obvious pick. Mostly because I think it'll be a very spread offense. I don't see Kelce getting, 150 yards. I don't see Hill getting 130 some yards. Like, I think it'll be balanced. Everyone's going to get the ball spread because I think the Bucs will cover pretty well. But we'll see.
So I'll give you a bold prediction because I'm on kind of the same wavelength as you. I think I'm going to go with a different defensive player on the Chiefs. I like Chris Jones in this game a lot. Kenny Clark had a great game in that Packers game against Buccaneers. Tom Brady's going to have to pass. He's going to have to pass because Patrick Mahomes is on the other side of the field. And Tom Brady does not like interior defensive pressure. It's always given him issues. He has no mobility anymore. Like I said, Mahomes can scramble and get out, and Brady's not doing any of that. I think Chris Jones is going to have to be the difference maker in that defensive line. Move him inside, move him around, get freaky with it, but he's going to be a force. I'm going to say he's going to have at least 2 sacks in that game.
I was going to say 2.5, 3 sacks, maybe a fumble recovery.
I'll take 2.5. I'm feeling good about him. I think, listen, they're going to have to pass. He's going to have his opportunities. And I saw how well Kenny Clark played, and I told you before that game how great Kenny Clark is, and he really showed out. And you even think about other Super Bowls like Grady Jarrett. Obviously, in that Super Bowl didn't really end well, but he came out firing. And the Eagles didn't really stop the Patriots in general when we played them. But
there really wasn't any defense in that game.
But
fun game to watch. But
yeah, interior pressure, especially on a quarterback that can't move. I think Chris Jones is going to have a hell of a game. He's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think at the end of the day, it's really going to have to be that the Bucs offense has to far outperform the Chiefs offense, I think. Because I know Brady's great at the end of the games, but so is Mahomes. So it'll be fun. I think it's going to be a good game.
I know. I'm excited. I'm excited. That's all you can ask for.
So if they're listening to this, YouTube video, the podcast, whatever, realize that was raw. I'm not good at math. We're going to keep that in there for the entertainment purposes. But if you are listening, comment on one of our posts or, DM us on Instagram or Twitter or something. Because I'm curious. I might try and do a poll of this. I saw on USA Today they did a top moments, like top Super Bowl moments. They had 55 moments, one from every game. Can you guess where they put Philly Special?
I'm trying to think what would be better than Philly Special. Malcolm Butler, David Tyree. I'd say it has to be top 5. No, really? Not even top 5?
So USA Today had Philly Special at 24.
24 of Super Bowl moments.
Yeah, I think because they cited that.
Wait, hold on. Moments or like plays? Like the James White touchdown in overtime against the Falcons would be a bigger moment, I would say, but not a better play.
Let's see what they said. It said best Super Bowl. They have 55 greatest Super Bowl moments.
Okay.
So, but their defense was that, while the Eagles got a little momentum, the Pacers were able to overcome that anyway, so it wasn't as big a deal. But I'm
overcome it. They ended up losing. And a bigger moment. It was on 4th down, wasn't it?
It was 4th and goal right before the end of the half.
That's idiotic. No, yeah, I won't. What's the top 5? I'm curious.
So
obviously those two I said.
My point was, if you think it deserves to be, higher up, let us know where you think it belongs.
24 is a joke.
Top 5. So for number 5 was Montana to Taylor. The
catch.
Yeah.
Okay, I can live with that.
Roethlisberger to Holmes, which that catch lives in my brain forever. It was that moment was in slow-mo. I think that was one of the best catches. No, screw all the one-handers and everything. That was one of the best catches I've ever seen. Perfect throw, perfect catch on the sideline in the end zone.
Okay.
Number 3 was wide right. So the Bills kicker missed with 4 seconds left. Super Bowl 25.
Oh no, you can't. No, that is dumb. You can't have a moment a missed field goal is a top 5 moment in Super Bowl history. Get the hell out of here. What kind of depressing loser made this list that he is a losing moment at the top 5 in Super Bowl history? Are you kidding me?
And then number 2 was David Tyree's helmet catch.
Fine.
And then number 1 was the Butler interception.
Okay, I figured those would probably be number 1 and 2.
But yeah, I was going through this and I was Philly Special at 24. I get obviously being Eagles fans, we would think highly of it, but I think it's definitely between 15 and 8.
I'm the fact that wide right is the number 3 Super Bowl moment ever is a joke. That's such a loser pick because they lost the game. You can't pick something like that where they lose the game. That's just no. You think I care more about a missed field goal or a Philly Special on 4th down with a backup quarterback, a play that no one's ever seen before? Nonsense. The couple moments that I would probably be at Phillies. There was probably the James Harrison, I would think, fumble recovery in that same game from the goal line. It's got to be up there.
That number 17.
Okay, that seems all right. And you know what? Because now whoever made this,
the Mario Manningham catch against the Patriots, that was number 18. I think that should be higher too.
No, that is not better than the Philly Special.
No, I'm saying it's not better than the Philly Special, but I think it's probably more deserving than 18. That was a huge play.
Yeah, I'd have to see what this list is. Even, you know what? Vinatieri's field goal to beat the Rams in Brady's first Super Bowl, that's a better field goal moment than the wide right.
Vinatieri, that was number 7, I think. Edelman's catch against the Falcons was number 21.
Okay, fine.
Let's see. When the lights went out in New Orleans, Baltimore and San Fran, that was number 5.
Oh my, that's such a stupid moment. What? That's a stupid moment. That's not an exciting moment or a moment I look back on. The power went out for 20 minutes. Okay, it's just a field goal to lose the game. They're not moments I look back on or think about.
they had Brandon Graham's strip sack of Brady at 29. Like,
okay. So the Philly special is 5 spots better than the Brandon Graham strip sack?
apparently.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can send you the link after, but I thought that was a little, because I've seen lists. I saw lists like last year, same kind of thing where Philly special was, I think it was on NFL, was it NFL Moments or NFL? They did like a top 100 plays.
They did top 100 plays, yeah.
And that was like top 15. I think it was like 14 or something, or it was definitely top 20. I remember that.
That's where I kind of like, this list seems a little like you got plays and moments. Like, sure, the lights going out, I guess, is a big moment, but you can't tell me that it's more exciting or a bigger moment than the Philly special, because it really had nothing to do with the game. Yeah, the game changed. So I think the Niners were winning by a lot, and then suddenly it changed. But it's not like a moment that like anyone's going to look back on. There's probably plays in that game that you look back on more fondly than you do the lights going out.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw that and I was curious what your opinion was on that. I figured you were going to be in disagreement. So
yeah, disrespectful.
But speaking of on the flip side of disrespectful, we have our awards to give out.
Interesting transition from disrespectful to awards, but
yeah,
go ahead. That was good. Smooth as butter.
It's a little late, 8:00.
Yeah. Too many stouts.
Guess so. But yeah, so we obviously had our midseason awards. So when we did that, obviously Russell Wilson was playing phenomenal. So we had him as the MVP. We had Myles Garrett as Defensive Player of the Year. We had, I think, Alvin Kamara as Offensive Player of the Year. But they were both of them were having phenomenal starts to the season. So that would have been through 8 weeks. Stefanski, the Browns coach, was our coach of the year at the time. And then I think we had Herbert as Offensive Rookie of the Year, and then the Ravens linebacker
Patrick Queen
as Defensive Rookie of the Year. Some of those changed. Some of them are the same. So I guess we could start with the big one, MVP. I think ultimately this came down to Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes towards the end of the season. And Josh Allen was, sprinkled in there a little bit.
Yeah, but this was one way.
I think Rodgers, for him to, go through the bullshit he went through in the offseason where they drafted his backup quarterback in the first round, or his replacement quarterback, and then they drafted another running back when they already had a top 10 running back. So instead of giving him wide receiver or tight end help, but he went out and balled out, had one of arguably his best career year. So I think well-deserved our MVP, the Post-Fades Cheesesteaks award to Aaron Rodgers. So
listen, he definitely deserved it. You look at his numbers; they're not too different from the other years he won the MVP. He had like 4,300 yards this year. He had more touchdowns this year than he did on any of the other MVP years. His yards were slightly, I think it was like 100 less than the 2014 MVP and like 400 less than the other one. But TD percentage, that was the highest of his career. He had 5 interceptions, which was less than both the MVP years. So it's really, he's got 2 other MVPs. You just compare it to those numbers, and these numbers are just good and most of the time better. So it's hard to argue in him not being the MVP.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to our Offensive Player of the Year. So this one, pretty easy. Derrick Henry, Titans running back. I mean, 2,000 rushing yards, 17 rushing touchdowns. He was borderline unstoppable, except in the playoffs when the Ravens stopped him. But besides that, he's just an animal. Like, if I was an NFL player, I don't care how big I am. Like, I would be a little worried trying to tackle him. Like, he's a freight train.
Oh yeah, no, it's one of those milestones too. Like, I'd say like 2,000 rushing yards, 2,000 receiving yards, or like 50 passing touchdowns. Those are like milestones that I actually don't even know if anyone's had 2,000 receiving yards, but like milestones. I think you hit any of those 3, just give them, either Offensive Rookie of the Year or MVP, whatever you want. They are not Offensive Rookie of the Year, but Offensive Player of the Year. The main thing with him is like everyone knew that he was going to run the ball 30 times a game, and he still couldn't stop it. He's just incredible. The durability. Lost one of his best offensive linemen, Josh Conklin, going to the Browns, and didn't even miss a beat.
Nope. Yeah, and they lost one of their interior linemen per year. Taylor Lewan, I think, wasn't it? He was out for.
I believe, yeah. Actually, I think he did get hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, lost a couple of linemen, and he's still no issues. It's incredible.
Unreal. Our defensive player of the year is not Aaron Donald, and it is not Myles Garrett, but it is a defensive lineman, and we went with T.J. Watt, who is very. I don't know if I'd say quietly, but he's kind of taken over that Watt name, I feel like, mostly because JJ just has not been super healthy lately. But in only his 4th year, TJ's already become one of the best defensive players in the league. And this past year, he had 41 QB hits, 15 sacks, 40-some solo tackles. Like, he gets after it. He's good in pass and run coverage, gets out of the quarterback. So you had a couple of stats we talked about earlier before we started that, just proves
why he's,
super.
He led the league. Yeah, he led the league in tackles for loss, sacks, and quarterback hits. So
yeah,
but it's even like he's obviously I would say the best pass rusher I think in the league. I think it's fair to say that with those numbers. But then you look, he had 7 passes defended and an interception. Like, considering he's your number 1 pass rusher in the league and he can still go out in coverage, he's not covering everybody on every play, but he's still capable to do that. It's just the versatility and really an incredible player. I think that he was locked in as defensive player of the year, at least a heavy candidate. And then it was kind of the team started falling apart and it kind of hurt him a little bit, but you can't take it away from him. I did want to shout out your Temple boy, Hassan Reddick, because looking into this, you see his numbers. I mean, he was tied with 4th in the league with 12.5 sacks. He had more combined tackles than T.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, and Myles Garrett did. He had more tackles for loss than Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett. Guy had a hell of a year. And obviously, he had the 6-sack game, which is literally going to get him $10 million or $20 million more dollars whenever he signs his contract. But listen, at the end of the year, all the stats at the end of the year just matter. They matter all the same. It doesn't matter if you got him in 1 game or, spread him out in 16 games. So really good season from him, a guy that kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, I think TJ Watt was a comfortable choice for this as well. And Hassan Reddick, actually, 2nd in the league in forced fumbles, another impressive stat. So, and that's compared to everyone. So really good year for him. A guy that didn't get any credit. He honestly had a defensive player of the year candidacy, I think. If you really looked into it, he's got better numbers than Myles Garrett did in every category. And I guarantee Myles Garrett will get more defensive player of the year votes than Hassan Reddick does.
I think the fact that he did have that 5-sack game, but was still able to produce throughout the rest of the year was a good sign. Especially, he was a former 1st-round pick too. So him, and I think Isaiah Simmons was also drafted by the Cardinals. So they got 2 really good young guys. Hopefully they can get them to work together so they can, improve on that defense. I mean, those 2 and Jordan Hicks, that's a decent linebacking crew.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But moving on to our Yunnins. So we got offensive and defensive rookies of the year. The offensive one was a little tough. I think, halfway through you could kind of say Herbert and Joe Burrow, and then Burrow got hurt. Then Herbert looked like he was going to kind of run with it. But, you and our one of our guests, Nick, made a good point earlier when we were discussing that Justin Jefferson had a hell of a season. And if you look at players, he was arguably top 5 as a wide receiver. Not just as a rookie, but as a wide receiver in the league, against like Metcalf and, the big boys. But, I don't think Herbert was a top 5 quarterback. I think his stats were very impressive for rookie. He won them a lot of games. He won the Chargers a lot of games. So
I actually see that.
1,400 yards, almost 16 yards of reception, 7 touchdowns, 70% catch rate. He balled out. A lot of teams, there were a lot of good rookie wide receivers this year. But, for him, I think he was the fourth or 5th wide receiver taken in the 1st round. To him to come on top, shows a lot about him, and especially filling, Stephon Diggs' shoes. So I kind of stole all stats there, but.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. But no, I didn't have too much for it. I mean, the one thing you mentioned his wins. Herbert did end the year with 4 wins, in a row. One of them being against the Chiefs backups, when they already locked it up. But besides that 4-game win streak at the end of the year, he only had 2 wins. Otherwise, he was in games. Like, I gave him a lot of credit. Like, he kept them competitive, and I'm not blaming him for the losses, but there was a couple of games where they were always in it late. They kind of wanted to see him just kind of take over. I think that's the next step for him, is getting to be that quarterback that can end games and, win on those next drives, which, listen, you're a rookie.
Yeah.
You're not expected to do that, but quarterbacks get every award. So, if there's a guy that can make an actual strong, legit argument against quarterback, I'll always take him. So Jefferson clearly had it. He set the receiving record for a rookie, which was, a Randy Moss record, I believe. So, one that stood for a while, but I think he's deserving.
For sure. On the flip side, our defensive rookie of the year was Chase Young, the DN from Washington.
This was easy. This one, he turned it on at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's weird because it's an easy pick, but it's not like you would look at him on paper and say, wow, like, he wasn't super, incredible. It was like 7.5 sacks, 44 combined tackles, 12 QB hits. But he's kind of, I mean, for me, watching the Eagles all the time, not reminds me, but his stats are kind of some of the Brendan Graham, where you don't always see the numbers on paper, but Chase Young was an impact force every play. I mean, I even watched watching the Tampa Gate playoff game against Washington. Like, Chase Young was getting after in the second half. Like,
he's a menace.
He's got a high motor. He's quick. He's strong. He's scary. I think the best compliment he got this year was from Mike Tomlin, when he said, I don't want to be something like along the lines of, I don't want to be a bad enough team to be able to draft a player like you, because he was taken second overall and has proven how, ridiculously talented he is.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah. I mean, towards the end of the year, I think that's when we really start putting it together too, which, you kind of expect from a rookie. He had, 3 sacks in the last 4 games. He had 2 forced fumbles in the last 4 games, along with 15 tackles. Like, it was towards that second half of the year. Because obviously we picked Patrick Queen in the first half to be the defensive rookie of the year. And I think it was like a couple weeks after that, and then Chase Young really started coming on, and it was like once he started putting it together and how dominant they were. Let's face it, that defensive line was winning Washington games. They weren't doing much offensively, but they still made the playoffs. They didn't do it with an impressive record or anything, but they still made it. And he was a big part of that, and he was just dominant. So I thought this was a pretty easy one after seeing him at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Moving on, we have our Coach of the Year. So this award will be staying where we gave it at the intermission of the season. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, did a hell of a job. And I'll let you do some more of the speaking on this one, but I think one of the biggest things, because I already liked him a lot as Coach of the Year when the season ended. And then for him to prepare his team while he had COVID or was being quarantined, couldn't even coach on the sidelines in their first playoff game. Still got that team prepared, still got everyone ready, and ended up winning the game, like, remotely. That speaks a lot about the trust he has in his players and his coaching staff, and on the flip side, how much, faith the players have in him. So I think that the Browns have a couple good young players in place right now, and a very good coach and GM to kind of help guide them the next few years. So
I'll keep it short and simple. He took the Browns to the playoffs. That did get you Coach of the Year right there. The team wasn't much different than it was last year. Obviously, they signed Conklin. They drafted what's the guy's name? Willis on the offensive line, which they really had issues
Cedric
with.
Willis.
Yeah, I think the biggest issues they had from last year was offensive line and coaching. And Stefanski came in, and they made the right lineman picks, and he changed the game plan too. He ran the ball heavy because he had 2 very good running backs, a strong offensive line. He lost his best player on offense in Odell. Early in the season, they didn't skip a beat. So
and they were using him pretty well too.
Yeah, this was easy. You take the Browns to the playoffs, you get the award. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, they went 11-5. Made the wild card. Had pretty much the best rushing game in the league between with Hunt and Chubb, And like you said, I mean, Odell got hurt, I think, in week 4 or 5.
Yeah, something early.
But they were using him in like reverses. They were having him throw the ball, and they were getting him involved in using the players to the best of their capabilities on the field. So
yeah.
I think it's well deserved for him. Coming in at our comeback player of the year.
Oh,
this was easy. I mean, this award should be renamed the Alex Smith Award.
Yeah, he went from almost losing his leg to leading his team to the playoffs. So
I'm pretty sure he could have lost his leg and almost could have died, I think.
I mean, if you're losing your leg, I would assume that death is also an option because it doesn't seem like a good, what's it called, a diagnosis.
He had 17 surgeries over the course of a year.
Listen, if the guy even if he suited up one game, that's when you give him the award. You nearly lost your leg. I can't imagine that it was easy for him to ever learn to walk again, have 17 surgeries. And if you can come back and play an NFL game, you have the award. If you get to the middle of playoffs, they'll name the award after you.
Came back, let it help to, I don't remember how many games he played, but definitely was a huge leadership factor for them to get to 7-9 and make the playoffs. But I mean, I think it was the first game he came back. It was against the Rams, and he had Aaron Donald jump on his back, and he was just standing up with him on his back. I was like,
listen, you don't get back and start playing games until you go through an extensive amount of rehab. So you think about his process and everything, and it has to. You just see the story that went into it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. The story was incredible. I don't know. I think maybe he's to be honest, he probably only has maybe a year left in him because towards the end of the season he was looking a little fatigued. Could be lack of conditioning and stuff, or lack to being used to football again.
Yeah,
but we'll see where they go. And then our final award was the general manager of the year. Another pretty obvious one, Brandon Beane, the Bills GM. I mean, leading up to this year, he was, he drafted Josh Allen, drafted Jermaine Edmonds. I forget his name, that D tackle, the year before. And
talking about Ed Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver. Brought in some good pieces in the secondary, extended Tre'Davious White. Brought in good pieces at wide receiver to help build around your quarterback. Running back could use some work, but
I thought Zach Moss was okay. Zach Moss was better than Singletary did. It's just he got hurt.
Yeah, and then you look at the biggest trade, arguably the biggest trade of last offseason was getting Stephon Diggs for a first-round pick and a couple third, fourth, fifths.
I said that before the season started. I said what's probably going to be the best addition to any team this year is going to be Stephon Diggs, and I thought that up until I would say probably last week when Tom Brady led the Buccaneers to the Super Bowl. So I think you have to choose Tom Brady for that, but Steph Diggs is right there. From what he did to transfer the entire offense, he's made Cole Beasley's a second team All-Pro. I don't think I could ever even thought of that ever happening without Stephon Diggs being out there. He was amazing. He was an elite number one wide receiver, made the whole team better, really helped in the development of Josh Allen. That was a great pickup. The Josh Norman pickup I thought was also smart. My boy Gabriel Davis, 4th-round draft pick, he played very well this year. Again, I think that's a product of how good Steph Diggs is and just makes everyone else better. But from what he did, the Bills were a very good team, very, very good team this year. It's just they ran into a buzzsaw that's Kansas City, and I don't think I can see anyone stopping them.
Yeah, I agree.
But very impressive year.
Yeah, and I think to that same respect, Sean McDermott was definitely in consideration for Coach of the Year too. He done a hell of a job in just a few years there, and they're another young team like the Browns who are going to keep getting better. They have good people in their staff, so I think those are very deserving awards. So that kind of wraps up, I think, this episode. Just to recap, obviously Matt Stafford traded the Rams. Both Tim and I agree that Chiefs should win the Super Bowl, but again, Brady's on the other side, so anything can happen. And then gave out, very deserving awards for some phenomenal play amid, COVID and having to deal with players having to get in quarantine and losing players and this and that and losing coaches. So hell of a job the NFL for actually pulling through and getting through the season with no limited rescheduling, honestly. Besides the Steelers bye fiasco, that was only the biggest issue. So
and our Wednesday afternoon game, but otherwise,
that was a fun week. We had football on what?
Listen, I'm fine with Wednesday.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So
I'm fine with it.
But yeah, so for anyone interested, I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever really watched the NFL award show, but it will be on Saturday, so the day before the Super Bowl on CBS, 6:00 Pacific time, which is 9:00 Eastern time.
Look at you! You're like a spokesman. You're hyping up these beers, setting out with the cans and the
what can I say?
And now we're hyping up CBS's award show. Look at you, man! You're just a product placer.
Yeah, gotta do what you gotta do.
I hear you, man.
Give the people what they want.
I hear you. No. All right. Well, I think this was fun. It wraps it up.
Pretty much wraps it up. It'll be sad to see, the last Sunday of football, but we got baseball coming. JT Realmuto coming back to the Phillies is huge. March Madness coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, I like that. I've been in a little college basketball action. We'll see.
Fingers crossed. I think we're about 50 some days away from the bracket. So it looks like it's going to happen, unlike last year, because last year, COVID really hit right when it was going to start. So it looks like it's going to happen this year. I'm pretty excited for that. And obviously baseball and NBA and NHL is underway. So good time to be a sports fan as always.
Love it.
All right. I'll talk to you next week, and go Chiefs.